it's time to welcome, ladies and gentlemen, on stage. Let's clap and welcome Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing Company Limited, Mr. Anil G. Verma. Can we clap for him, everyone? Come on.
Morning. So I'll just test technology. I'll just see whether my slides move. Okay, so I'm not going to be speaking, but I just thought I will share with you a presentation. It's more about what we, as business leaders of manufacturing, and that's very different from being manufacturing leaders. What should we, as business leaders of manufacturing, do? So these are some of my thoughts, and hopefully by the end of my presentation, I will leave you with some thoughts, and hopefully, if it makes sense, we could action some of them. But before I kind of move on to my presentation, let me begin with my first slide. I think all of us who work for manufacturing companies, we should feel proud of ourselves. I think let's give us a round of applause. Yeah. It should be louder. I don't think, in our culture, we are told not to congratulate ourselves. Believe me, but we are doing a great job. One is in terms of our contribution to the GDP, 45 lakh crores. We hear about, our contribution stagnating at 17%, but the fact is 45 lakh crore is not a joke. Look at the employment we provide. This is direct employment. Almost 40 million people. Look at the taxes, and I'm talking about corporate tax. I'm not talking about GST. The income tax that corporate pays. These are the manufacturing companies. That's 8% of the total contribution of the country. Look at our exports, and a bulk of it comes from the MSMEs. And finally, there is no industry that I know of, with the exception perhaps of a bit of services, which has a multiplier effect on the economy. So every time we set up a factory, we have to source raw material. There's inbound logistics. If we have to sell, we need to have dealerships. We need to have outbound logistics. So see the impact manufacturing has on the economy. We should really be proud of our contribution. Now today's theme was, what does the future of manufacturing look like? So I've taken two approaches. The first is, I said, let's go to knowledgeable and hopefully credible sources. So one is, a lot of you can go and look at Google Scholar. So Google Scholar has a whole compendium of research articles on the future of manufacturing. Go to the World Economic Forum. They have some wonderful videos in terms of what the future of manufacturing is going to be. And this source, I don't know whether it's credible or not. You can also look at ChatGPT. And then I made a word cloud. So this is the first word cloud. And one of the themes that really stands out here, or maybe a couple of themes, and this is really about the future of manufacturing, what can we look forward to? So the future of manufacturing is very often spoken with certain adjectives. Adjective number one is Industry 4.0. So that's theme number one. And the second one, which is not coming out very clearly, but it's all about AI and robotics. So there are these two themes which the publications speak about. I said, let me do some more work in terms of what is going to be the future of manufacturing in terms of stuff other than technology. So here again, there's a word cloud. The big themes here is really green manufacturing, sustainability that we know of. That's the big theme that is coming out clearly here. So the three themes that came out were Industry 4.0, AI and robotics, and sustainability. Then I said, let me do one more thing. We need people to work with. So if we have to imagine what the future of the factories would look like and how people would be working, this is what came out. So it's a lot about wearables. So people will be equipped with you can say glasses, with some other sensors, so that they work more productively and also they work in a safer environment. One of the things which I wanted to point out is there are something called exoskeletons. Ford has already experimented with it. It's like a superstructure on a human body. And those who are in the auto sector should know that when you are working below the car, and if you have to tighten some bolts and things like that, it requires force. We are working against gravity. This is what the exoskeleton helps you. It multiplies force. Surprisingly, diversity was missing, so I added that on my own. So the four big themes to me, which secondary sources speak about, are Industry 4.0, AI robotics. Number 3 is in terms of sustainability. And the fourth was in terms of diversity. And of course, a lot of stuff on wearables. So this is what the future of manufacturing will look like, or this is really the trends that may shape the future of manufacturing based on secondary published sources. I was just thinking, is this a good approach? And I said, let's take a very different approach in terms of what the future will be. And this is a quote. I don't know how many of you follow ice hockey. So this Wayne Gretzky is an all-time great hockey player. He played for 5 teams. I don't know whether I should mention this or not. He's a Canadian, but he played most of his hockey in the US. So he started playing hockey, by the way, from the age of 2 years, 10 months. But he's got a great quote, which, by the way, his father told him. And the quote goes like this: I skate to where the puck, puck is like a disc, it's like the ball in hockey. So I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been. So I was just saying that, okay, if we have to look at the future of manufacturing, can we look on the basis of mega trends? So let me move. So what are mega trends? And so typically, there are people in the world, and there are enough consultants, there are enough global bodies who have identified what are the mega trends which are impacting the world. So I'll mention some of them. One is, for example, urbanization. What does it say? It says people are moving from villages, they're moving to bigger cities. Another is sustainability. Green matters. Third mega trend is the number of people with higher incomes is increasing year by year by year. Fourth is in terms of nuclear families. Increasingly, you will find more and more people staying on their own rather than in joint families or rather than in larger families. So like that, there are multiple mega trends. So I said, let me look at the mega trends. These are for the future. And now let me apply it not on manufacturing directly, because manufacturing at the end of the day, we make products and offerings for customers. So let me apply the mega trends on who our stakeholders are. So it's a very outside-in approach. So let's look at our customers. We operate in an environment where there are regulators. Let's look at our bankers, the financiers. Let's look at society at large. And finally, talent. So I'm just sharing with you what is the future as far as these stakeholders are concerned, what are going to be the requirements, number one. If these are going to be the requirements, hopefully if they're right, what does it mean for us who are in manufacturing? And then, of course, I will come down to what some of the consultants have to say. So let's begin with customers. So those of you who have, we know this, but if you ever were to call Google to your office, they will tell you customer journeys have become very complex. People move between offline, online, offline all the time. The younger people, they want what is called immediate gratification. They're not prepared to wait. And this is largely for India. Those of you who must be dealing with Indian customers, we all deal with them. Indian customers are value for money seekers. They will beat you down to the last naya paisa, still they are not satisfied. So this is typically Indian. It happens in our personal lives also. So this is what customers are going to be, and you will see more of it going into the future. The second thing about regulators, so capitalism has been under question all over the world. You must be knowing of movements like Occupy Wall Street, where people said that companies are only looking at their own profits. They're not looking at other stakeholders. So the regulators have got no option but to jump in. And those of us who are listed, we know the kind of SEBI regulations that we have to now file. Society, much more of equitable distribution, egalitarian, much more of diversity is what we find. And talent. And this piece I think most of us should know. One is, when we talk about customers, we need to recognize that very often our customers are also in the same age group as the talent we wish to hire. In fact, the younger people which we want to hire, they mirror their counterparts who may not be working with us. So what do the younger people want today? I think the big piece is, of course, we heard about hybrid working, flexi hours, great salaries, great careers, all that is there. But I think the big piece is, and I think we must recognize, because recruiting, attracting in manufacturing, it's not really the most glamorous of jobs. I think the nobler purpose, that's important. So increasingly you will find the younger people saying that I don't want to work for a company where I deal with derivatives and options and credit swaps and all kind of esoteric financial instruments to make money. I want to see where real value is being created, and I want to see a company which is doing good to society. And I want to go back to my earlier slide. Manufacturing adds value, tangible value. We are a force multiplier of goodness. So this is what the customers would want going forward. And while we may talk about AI and we may talk about machine learning and we may talk about so many other things, if we don't satisfy our stakeholders, I don't think we have a right to exist, and I don't think we can exist either. So everything that we do at the end of the day has to be aligned with a greater purpose. Many years back, Peter Drucker made a great comment. He says the purpose of all business is to create a customer profitably. That's what he said. Okay. Now, if this is what the stakeholders want, I just thought, what should we do? We are finally simple people. We run factories. We produce goods. We try to sell it directly to institutions or through dealerships. So this is what it means. Let me go back to customers, and I spoke to you about customers, and I spoke about that value for money. There are two things which we must understand. If we have to sell our offerings at prices which the customers are wanting to pay, we need to have very competitive cost structures. And a lot of technology that we are talking about has to support it. Number two is mass customization. No two customers have the same buying journey. No two customers may necessarily want to buy the same stuff. They would want some variance. So customization. So the factories have to be geared for mass customization. And the third part is, I think it's a matter of time before it's going to be made mandatory. Every product that we sell, I think we will have to disclose what is the carbon footprint. It's bound to come. It's a matter of time. Customers will want it. Regulators will want it. The second thing which I just wanted to share with you, what does it mean for us if these are the mega trends impacting our stakeholders? From the regulator's point of view, they will expect much more of transparency. Much, much more of transparency. It's not only compliance. Compliance is passive. Compliance is given. Transparency, they would expect us to be good corporate citizens. So are we contributing our due in terms of taxes, in terms of employment, and so on and so forth? The third is, I will just jump to society at large. I don't know how many of you have factories, greenfield factories, which are in what I would say semi-rural, rural areas. The locals expect us to be the de facto government in terms of providing them with everything. And I think the CSR rule, if anything, has strengthened that. So whether it's in terms of water supply, whether it's in terms of power, whether it's in terms of livelihoods, society is expecting more from corporates. And of course, there's the other part. Society expects us to operate in a manner which is right. So the two big pieces as we move forward, the expectation from society would be in terms of livelihoods And the second would be in terms of our impact on the environment. So with global warming and so many other things coming. So are we really making the environment worse, or are we doing our bit towards making the environment better? And for talent, remember, they mirror the customers. We keep hearing we have the largest population in the world. We have the largest, youngest population in the world. We have the largest number of science graduates, engineers, so on and so forth. So employment is one big issue which talent will want. They will expect companies to be increasingly ethical. I don't know how many of you are following the US, and there are a lot of companies where the workmen have gone, the unions have gone on strike. And 70% of the younger people are saying they are right. 70% of the overall people, I guess 100% of the younger people. So they believe that prosperity has to be shared. If we are not seen as being right, talent will not join us, talent will not buy our products. And of course, this whole thing is, we have to look at maximizing stakeholder benefits rather than what is called shareholder primacy. So these were my own thoughts on the basis of the mega trends. I just tried to kind of apply it to the stakeholders, which was the earlier slide, and what do we need to do. Now going forward, I just thought let me share with you in terms of what the strategy consultants have to say. So a couple of slides on that. The first thing the strategy consultants have to say is, going forward, and to me these are perennial truths. They were there earlier, they're there today, they're going to be for all times to come. So they say, manufacturing, it's true for all of us, we are going to continue facing 4 challenges. They don't say continue, but I think we have always faced these challenges. One is productivity. There's always been waste in this system. We had lean manufacturing and whatnot to remove waste. But as we use more and more technologies, we have to reduce more and more waste. So production efficiency is the key. And if we are more efficient, hopefully our cost structures become more competitive, our prices become better, we are able to sell more, so on and so forth. So this is one challenge that they see for manufacturing people, and we need to work towards it. The second is about sustainability. So it's all about the impact we have on the environment. I think some companies already, I know a few companies, and I'm sure many of you would be doing it. So in any investment that we make, we do what is called carbon pricing. So if I'm going to buy a machine, I would look at the emission. The emissions could be different. And then you give a dollar value to the emissions, maybe $5 a ton of carbon emission. And then you say, now let me take a call. And sometimes one ends up buying a more expensive machine just because the carbon emission is less. But that's really the way for the future. That's true. The third is in terms of flexibility. Remember I spoke about mass customization? Now, for those of us who have run factories, we would ideally set up and then stand back and let the output come out. But that's not really what's going to happen. If customers want mass customization and every second car has to be of a different color, how do we make systems that are flexible? The last part is resilience. We saw it during COVID time. Supply chains can get disrupted. Maybe the world has moved to a combination of maybe distant supply chains, but a lot of local supply chains. So what are we doing for resilience? And of course, the last part is about talent. And here I have a point of view, because we are in manufacturing. I think somewhere we have not done enough to make manufacturing be perceived as a, I don't know to use the word glamorous, but as a profession which adds huge value and which enhances the quality of life of people. We have just not done enough. Now, I understand the challenges of manufacturing. Many of us, including me, we have worked in shifts. When you work on the shop floor, you don't work in an AC atmosphere unless you're working in a machine shop. You have to deal with workmen. Dealing with humans is much more difficult than dealing with machines. We all know that. Large companies invariably have unions, and maybe things are much better now. 20 years back, I tell you, there would be multiple unions, and we had to talk to them. And it's not really the easier life that we had to go. But I think somewhere, manufacturing cannot progress unless we attract talent. And today with IT and AI and ML and we're talking Industry 4.0, I think many of our problems are solved. I don't think we talk enough about it. So I think in every forum we should talk about manufacturing the kind of difference manufacturing is making, the kind of value add we do, the kind of multiplier effect we have, and if we can get the talent to be with us, we can really go places. Now, this was from the consultant, a couple of more slides from the consultants. Now, essentially what this slide says is that this is from the Boston Consulting Group, and they have said that everybody recognizes the need to move to advanced technologies, so whether it's additive manufacturing or whether it's AI or using advanced material robotics and all that. But the slide also says they've done a global research and they say most people are slow. So we shouldn't worry if we are slow. Globally, people are slow. And it's not because companies are terrible. Every industry has what I would call its clock speed. Electronics has a separate clock speed. Software has a different clock speed. Manufacturing has a different clock speed. That's the big point we have to do. So we are well on course, is what I would say. And of course, the consultants have a point of view on what the successful factories of the future would look like. So there will be a lot of digitization, automation, process stability, so on and so forth. But the consultants also give advice, saying that, if we are lagging behind, globally manufacturers are lagging behind, what should we do? So they talk about two solutions. One is they say, embrace more technology, which is at the bottom of the slide. Embrace more technology. And the second piece they speak about is people. We need talent. We need great leadership. We need to change our way of working, be a little more agile, a little more speedier. And we must embrace AI in the organization. Let's use more and more of technology. That's what they have to say. So this is from the consultants. Remember, I began with secondary data, then I said, let's do mega trends. Third is in terms of what the consultants have to say as far as the future of manufacturing is coming. Now, the last two slides are something which, to me, are really very important. And when I came here, you must have rarely seen me in a forum. So I came here for two reasons. One is because at Godrej, we believe we are a manufacturing company, and we wear it on our sleeves. So we are still Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing Company Limited. We have not removed the word manufacturing even today. We take pride in that. The second part is, I think, manufacturing people need to think more business along with thinking manufacturing. So I said, let me have this whole conversation a little more on business rather than in terms of technology and stuff which really excites us. So the last two slides, again, this is what we know. So I don't know how many of you saw the newspaper report. This is very, very recent. So BCG came out with a report, the Boston Consulting Group, and they said India is one of the most competitive countries in the world as far as cost structures are concerned. So it's there. So there was a newspaper report. There's also a presentation. In fact, I have that. But that's good news for us. So we have a great export opportunity. But I just want to tell you, India's time is now. And we should not miss it. Now, when I say India's time is now, what exactly I'm trying to say? See, one is, thanks to the geopolitical situation, more and more global manufacturers, and we heard about Apple, we heard about Tesla, everybody wants to come to India. For them, it's maybe de-risking China. But there's a second reason why everybody wants to come to India, and that's because of our large market. Business is rarely done on charity. People are coming to India, there's clearly a purpose, there's a market. Developed countries, the markets are saturated. China, a lot of question marks, political question marks. India is the next big place to be in. The third is, I think the government, there are a huge number of initiatives. We all know about the PLI, which is the financial incentive, but there's one more, which is in terms of, ease of doing business and creating the infra. The amount of investments we are making on logistics, the roads, multimodal transport and all that. So the government is creating that environment. I've always said that, I grew up hearing Germany is the factory of the world. And I'm saying, this is the time. India can be the factory of the world. Trust me. And if we have missed this opportunity, we have nobody else but ourselves to be blamed. India can be the factory of the world. Okay. Now the last slide. I just wanted you to leave with these thoughts. And I think rather than thinking about ourselves individually as our companies, I said, let's look at manufacturing as an industry. What should we be doing? So the first point is, We must think ecosystems. We cannot think about our own companies. Till the slide comes anyway, I know what I have written. So what happens is, companies never win. It is ecosystems which win. So when Apple wins, what does Apple do? They design, and probably they own the processors which they put in our watches and in our things. Where do they get their memories from? Samsung. Who does their assembly? Foxconn. Who is the banker? Who is the logistics partner? So it's a very different world. So actually, in my mind, it's Apple winning. There's an Apple ecosystem, there is a Samsung ecosystem, maybe there are other ecosystems, and the Apple ecosystem is winning. So when we go back, as manufacturing companies, let's not think about ourselves. Let's look at our ecosystems. And in our ecosystems, we have our suppliers, we have our logistics partners, we have our dealers, we have our distributors. And then the question is, are we thinking of optimizing on a whole, or we are only thinking about the profits which flow to our pockets? It's arrogant for any company to believe it can win by itself. It's arrogance. It's ecosystems which win. So let's develop those ecosystems. That's number one. The second thing which I wanted to say was in terms of people. Now, we keep reading that India has this demographic dividend. We have a lot of young people. But we also read that most of them are not employable. And all of us are waiting for the government to build capabilities. Who needs the capabilities? Don't we need the capabilities? So what are we doing for skilling? How many of us work with IDIs? How many of us adopt ITIs? How many of us have capability building programs? How many of us use our CSR budgets for skilling? So I think we must go back. If we have to be the factory of the world, I would say more than technology, we require people. People come with commitment, with brains. We need to skill them. That should be where the first investment should be. The second. The third thing is, which I would say is, please think in terms of sustainability. If we have to be the factory of the world, we have to have green processes, and we have to disclose what is going to be the environmental impact on our products. So just yesterday I was speaking we have a business which makes motors, and I was talking to the business head, and he was talking about ROHS and REACH, if you know that. So these are basically how much is the hazardous content in a motor. And if you want to sell to Europe and US, you need it. Of course, we have the EcoVadis certification if you want to export to Europe and all that. So sustainability, you have to think about it. And please believe me, there is a business case for sustainability. I think most of us believe it's expensive. It's not like that. Other than where I have seen in renewable power, everywhere else, I mean, if we conserve water, aren't we better off? If we conserve power, aren't we better off? If we eliminate waste, aren't we better off? So why aren't we paying enough attention on that? That would be my third point. The last point that I would like to jump is manufacturing with a soul. So do we manufacture with a soul? So let me mention. This is something very close to my heart. See, all of us who are sitting in this room, and all of us who run factories, we have been blessed with a lot of authority in setting things right. So let me begin with inside our fence. We employ people. Those who are on our rolls, probably we pay fair wages. And I guess we pay fair wages because we have not much of option. We have to pay fair wages or good wages, otherwise we won't get talent, or we have to pay fair wages to the blue-collar workmen because the unions will negotiate. But within the fence, we also have a lot of people who do housekeeping. Many of you, we don't, but many of us probably outsource security. We outsource canteen. Have we ever bothered what kind of wages these people get? And to me, the disconnect is we pay to the contractors the right wages, but a lot of it kind of falls between the cracks. I think please pay attention to that. We owe it to them. If we are not exercising our power in establishing good, somewhere I think we have failed. Let's go outside our fence. Please look at our vendors and all that. Look at the kind of environments they provide. Please look at safety. And I was speaking to Sujata earlier because Godrej and me, we were involved in safety as far as CIS is concerned. It's shocking. And I come from a place where the philosophy is we owe it to every individual and his family that he has to reach home in the same pristine condition he came to work. So, are we paying attention to our clusters of suppliers, or we are just looking at them as a vendor and as a party whom we should meet once a year to beat them on down prices? That's not ecosystem. I'll give you one more example. Every factory will have raw material coming in and some output. So we deal with logistics. I don't know how many of you have seen what a trucker goes through. Every kilometer, they are stressed. You hit somebody, you get hammered. You meet a cop, he wants money. Everywhere there are roadblocks. What we did, and I would urge all of you to do, we have 62 lakh square feet of warehousing space, Godrej and Boyce. We said there has to be a restroom, there has to be tea, there has to be coffee. We said let them park their trucks within our warehouse, because outside, I don't know if you know, in most places, there are extortionists who take money from them. Otherwise, they say, we will break your window screen. This is also a part of India. So I'm just saying that we have the power, we have the infrastructure, we have the authority. Are we exercising it? And if we are not exercising it, I would conclude by saying, we may end up being the factory of the world, but we'll be the factory of the world without any soul. Thank you so much for hearing me. Please think as business leaders. Manufacturing is more than manufacturing, it's business. Manufacturing is more than manufacturing. Manufacturing needs a soul too. Thank you.
Can we clap for him once again, everyone? We'd like to really thank and appreciate him being here with us today. To do the honors, to felicitate him, I'd like to invite on stage, ladies and gentlemen, let's clap and welcome Mr. Partha Karmakar, Vice President, Business Head, Professional Lighting, Havells India Limited. I'd also like to invite on stage Mr. Bibor Srivastav, MD, ITP Media Group India, to join us. We'd also like to welcome on stage Ms. Sujata Vishnuraj, Editor, Manufacturing Today, to join us on stage and felicitate Mr. Anil Verma, ladies and gentlemen.